Hello, welcome back to Scriptural Analysis. This is video 3, the introduction of God's governance strategy, the law of the covenant. Video 3 will have several parts due to the quantity of material. The purpose of this video will be to provide the viewer an introduction to an opportunity in seeing a consistent theme used throughout the Bible that identifies the realities of human interaction with God, as defined within this book. This theme, the law of the covenant, forms a pattern used by the authors of the Bible that transcends all time and defines quite simply the difference between those that actually find God, learn of His plan for His children, understand the reason for His governance through covenants, and choose to enter into a relationship through those very same covenants, versus those that simply create their own God for whatever purposes they choose to act for. This is an extremely important distinction. I want you to think about that for a moment. The division of people on this earth by those that choose to find God's covenants and enter in them versus those that create their own God and their own human-defined covenants of how to live. This is nothing new, by the way, as this division has always been recorded through time, not only by the authors of this book, but by worldly historians as well. The authors of this book consistently wrote to show the reader that there is a God, and that as such, He, and He alone, is the only authorized administrator of His work, the only one who can direct mankind by educating them on what actions and choices all women and men need to accomplish at some time during their earth life, in order to return back to God during this test of life outside of His presence. These authors knew God. They were instructed by Him, either directly or in such a way by His chosen servants, earthly or heavenly, that these authors had no doubt, and as such could inform the world. This received instruction gave the authors an understanding of the purpose of life on this earth, helped them to define who they were and what was important for them to do while living on this earth, and allowed them a sure knowledge of where they were going when they left this earth. As will be discussed in subsequent videos, the knowledge and experience these authors wrote of is not unique just for them. Every woman and man who ever lived on this earth and who will ever live on this earth have the very same opportunity as these authors to discover for themselves those very same three things, either by God directly or by His chosen servants, earthly and or heavenly. Such is their message. It is this literary message that has existed for thousands of years, and it is this message which provides the reader an opportunity to understand for themselves if there is just one message from one God, defining one path which allows for all people to be included within, that provides a way for all people to actually find out and know for themselves, rather than having to believe someone's instruction. Again, a very important distinction. Listening to others telling you what is true versus finding out for yourself. The authors, knowing that you can find out for yourself, as they did for themselves, assisted in identifying God's governance plan and doing all they could to campaign for His plan. As such, we have the book and its message, a historical review of those that found God's plan versus those that created their own plan and campaigned for their own plan. This campaign against God's plan, as described by these authors, has always been very successful. And in the year 2016, you can find approximately 4,600 different religions with over 35,000 different church organizations among those that use this one book. How can that be? It is just one book. But it does show the success of the campaign to confuse mankind. No wonder the message of this book and the voice of its authors have become inaudible in this generation. How can anyone take serious a message so distorted? The truth is that today many simply dismiss it all, not willing to look for themselves. They want someone to tell them. That is the reason for these videos, to cut through the noise and confusion and go back to what is really written. Then it becomes quite amazing. The authors, knowing the end from the beginning, also understood the future success of this campaign of confusion. So they embedded their message through previously discussed literary techniques, so that the honest, diligent reader, having a desire to find out for themselves, could clearly hear, understand, and see how the message was put within the writings. The Law of the Covenant is just one example of that technique and provides the reader a systemic pattern of governance from God that is replete with circumstances that are both good and not so good for those that choose either to adhere to those covenants or to ignore them. But the authors have shown to all people that the choice they make as individuals is their own, and God has given them such a gift as individual choice to choose, without forcing anyone to his side. However, it is God who sets the terms of those who succeed or do not succeed in abiding these covenants. Now, to understand how God's governance model proceeds through the law of the covenant, this video series will fast forward over the early writings and will use as its starting point the approximate year of 2,000 years before Christ, 20 generations away from the earliest writings that include Adam and Eve, whose record began somewhere close to the year 4000 BC. Why 2000 BC? Well, that is when a man named Abraham lived and managed to raise himself up to a level of existence to participate in assisting in the governance of God while here on the earth. And in doing so, due to his proven loyalty to God, received an important unconditional covenant from him that would set the stage for God's governance to develop through to the end of the earth, which was necessary for assisting his children through to that time. And that includes you. As it is my goal to keep these videos under 10 minutes in duration, this one will now end. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to you joining me for part 2 of video 3 in this series, as the Abrahamic covenant is discussed in relation to God's governance strategy, the law of the covenant. And as all covenants are everlasting, these writings then have implication in your life today, so don't miss it. Until next time, take care and contemplate these things.